Yeah.
Okay, and then Jennie, I'm just gonna mute everyone, so why don't you just unmute yourself once I do that, okay?
All right, all right, all right. How exciting, it's Friday. I don't know about you guys, in Oklahoma it's rainy and blah, but that doesn't matter because we've got the most amazing maps coach in all of the land, and I am so honored that I get to coach with him. And I know you guys want him to, but he's kind of busy because he's helping all of us messy agents, right? What a treat you guys have in store for you. So Jordan is going to talk on the socially distanced database. And obviously there's so many ideas that, I don't know if you guys are like me, where you're hearing all these different amazing ideas and you don't know which direction to go in. That's what I'm always struggling with each week. And so like all things, and like my coach teaches me, is you gotta just put it in the calendar, and then you can work through the details, and then you get into implementation. So Jordan's gonna share with us all the different ideas, I bet. I don't know the whole thing that we're gonna talk about. I'm guessing you're gonna share everything, and then we get to get with our coaches and chunk it down and get into action. So what a treat. Thank you guys for, this went out to all the people that hang out in my world. So either you're from your journey with Jennie or you're just a huge Jordan fan and you saw me tag him. Either way, we're just so grateful that you're here. One thing I'm doing a little plug, Jordan, is I did launch the encore edition of Mirror My Business. It's a 3-hour workshop, and I'm going to launch that in August. There's going to be 4 more training sessions. So if you didn't get in that already, I know Rebecca, I see you were there. And so many of you, yes, I love it. Yes. So if you want to join me again, or you want to recommend, there's Chris, I see Chris, all my peeps. Then let's get your friends in this class too, so they can get systems and get into action. And I'm just so grateful for all of you. All right, Jordan, you are up. Take it away. #1 maps coach of all time. Go.
All right, thank you, Jennie. And yeah, for those of you who have taken Mirror My Business, I would encourage you to consider that. Like Gary talks about career visioning, that every time you take it, it's like you've gone through a grade, right? So for those of you who've taken it, you've gone through first grade. And then obviously you move on to implement My Business. And so keep taking it again and again and again so that you can fully get that stuff implemented, because Jennie's doing, I can promise you 1/3 of every one of our coaching calls, the time that we're spending is how to improve that and make it better for all of you. So thank you for having me here, Jennie. And thank you all of you who are here, because you are here. That what that means is that you support the Wolek Group. And I have the amazing opportunity to coach that team, and just such a great group of people. And what I love about them is that they truly put their clients first in everything that they do, whether their clients are people buying or selling homes, the people who are within the organization, or great agents like you from across the country that learn from your journey with Jennie or refer business to the Wolek Group. So just thank you for your support of that team. They're just, again, amazing people. So database. And I wanted to just start off with why database and how I kind of got my journey started with database. When I first started out as a team leader back in 2012, I have always lived by a very simple philosophy that I would invite all of you to adopt. And the philosophy that I've lived by is go to the best first. Go to the best first. And so at that time, I was taking on the TL role, and I wanted to know what was the most common characteristics, what were the most common challenges amongst top producing team leaders. So at the time, what I did is I sent out an email to every single KW Master Faculty member. And if you don't know what KW Master Faculty is, those are the people who are certified to fly around the country and teach great classes like career visioning and, winning with sellers, quantum leap. And so I sent out this email asking for 15 to 20 minutes of their time so that they could share with me what they believed was the most, 3 most common characteristics of top team leaders and their 3 biggest challenges. And what was interesting, out of about 50 people that I emailed that to, 42 of them gave me their time. And it was just the most amazing learning experience. And during one of those interviews, I talked to a gentleman named Tony DeCello. And this was actually what started my relationship with Tony. And he's the reason that I ultimately ended up with Maps. And Tony said, you know, Jordan, one of the things that we often talk about in Keller Williams is the importance of the database and the 33 touch. And yet, I really believe this is where the industry is headed, and that the ones who are going to not just have high GCI companies, but high net companies will be the ones who build it through a database. And he said the challenge that so many people have with the 33 touch is that we spend so much time talking about what it is, and we don't spend enough time chunking it down and talking about how to actually implement it. And he said, if you go into your market center and just take that one idea and just teach it over and over and over and just get better and better and better and perfect it, then I promise you over time, you'll take territory, you'll take market share. And so I've never really been that smart. I've always just thought, okay, if somebody who is better than me is telling me to do it, then I'm just going to do it. And so when I went into being the team leader, I found 5 to 10 agents who would want to grow their business, that actually wanted to listen to what I had to say. And we taught this idea. But the thing that was different about how I encouraged them to implement their 36 touch, well, it was 33 then, it's 36 now, is that I use what's called a calendar-driven system, not a campaign-driven system. So what's the difference? A calendar-driven system is one that you set up, and I honestly, and when I coach someone who doesn't already kind of have this down, we typically set up their 36 touch, or the communication that they're going to have with their database, from a quarterly perspective. And what we developed is something that I like to call the 10, 25, 90. And so what is that? So the way that it worked, or the way that it works now, is that on the 10th of the month, I encourage my clients to do one of 3 things. You're either going to do a reverse bold 100. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain it in a second. You're going to run some kind of giveaway or contest on Facebook, Insta, whatever social media platforms you're using, or you're going to do some sort of a pop buy. And so if you think about this, we've got 12 months in the year. We've got 3 different options here for you to choose from on the 10th of the month. So let me break each one of those down. What's a reverse bold 100? Well, if you're a bold graduate, you've heard of a bold 100, which is where you want to contact 100 people every single, or in one day, right? And I've done a couple of bold 100s, and I got to be honest, when I did them, I just ended up with a lot of contacts. I didn't end up with a lot of leads. And maybe that's because my personality is about as fun as watching paint dry. And yet, about a year and a half ago, a good friend of mine who's also a MAPS coach, Craig Goodliff, came up with this idea called a reverse bold 100, where he said, what would we have to do to get 100 people to call us in one day? And I know a lot of you have already heard of this idea, and yet it really works. And so what we do is we find a gift, we find a giveaway, and this is the real key. You've got to find something that people actually want. In fact, one of my clients right now, Shelby Ryburn out in California, they're getting ready to give away a Peloton. They're going to give away a Peloton bike. And so some people give away concert tickets, which obviously isn't a big thing right now, local restaurant gift cards. One of my favorites from earlier this year was one of those Dyson hair dryers. You know, they gave that away for Mother's Day. One of my great clients down in Tampa, Florida, Tony Baroni, gave away a fishing charter for Father's Day. But what you want to do is pick a gift, something that you can give away, and then set it up to where on one particular day, all these people are going to call in and register themselves for that gift, right? And I'm not going to go into the intricate details of reverse bold 100s beyond that. I do have a document that I'll share today that I've kind of compiled and put together, some examples and things. Jennie's Bold 100 outline is in there too. I linked that in there without her permission, so you'll see that, Jennie. But on the 10th of every month, we want to do that, or we want to do some type of a giveaway. Like, one of my favorite ones is, we've got this listing coming. Guess what the price is? The person who's closest will win a $100 gift card to Amazon, right? So we run one of those a minimum of once a month. And all we're looking to do is to create engagement, right? And then on the 10th of every month, or 4 times a year, we want to do a pop by. Now, pop buys, I think, can be done in one of two ways. One is where you physically go out to their place and drop something off. I wouldn't recommend right now door knocking or having conversations on their doorstep, but you're giving something of value and you're dropping it off on their door. And a lot of times people tell me, oh my gosh, Jordan, I've got 500, 600, 700 people. That's going to be so hard. And I say, I know. And that's why you're going to do it, because it's hard. And no other agent will do it because it's hard. So do it. And go out there and twice a year, get your team and drop something off. And then the other side of pop buys are reverse pop buys. One of Jennie's ideas that I absolutely love, and Jennie, just correct me if I butcher this, but it's giving away like take and bake pizzas where people can come in, grab a pizza, right? They call it date night, and gives them the opportunity to talk to them. And again, it's very much coming from contribution. Another really great example of reverse pop buys that are really popular is the Pie Day for Thanksgiving, right? So the calendar driven or 36 touch starts with, what are you going to do on the 10th of the month? And I just gave you 3 options that if you looked at your watch today, it's the 10th, and you said, okay, I'm going to get something done really quickly, I'm going to get it out in the next couple of days, then you could absolutely do that. Now, the 25th of the month is, I recommend a local business spotlight. And that's where you can, and there's, again, so many different ways that you can do this. My personal favorite is a guy in Wichita named Kirk Short. What he does is he gets somebody who owns a business. He's done it with the mayor, somebody that is of influence in his area. And he's got one of those little car mounted, for the car mounts that holds his phone. And he drives around and talks to this person. And the videos are like 3 to 4 minutes. They're light, they're funny, they're informative. And he puts that on his YouTube channel and he shares it. So on the 25th of every month, which is only 12 businesses a year, let's find that businesses or people that you can spotlight, and then you can share that on your through email, through your social media platforms, wherever it is that your people receive info from you. And sometimes we get caught up in the whole like, well, only 300 people viewed it or whatever. Keep in mind, it's not just about communicating to your database these things. It's the people we meet in the process of putting them together. Because you meet a local business owner and say, hey, I'd love to share more about your business. Would you mind if we did a 3 or 4 minute video about you? Again, Jennie does a great job with this. And especially during COVID, I thought she did an amazing job. It's that goodwill. It's the continuing to build relationship equity inside of the people that already know, like, and trust you. And it makes that law of reciprocity exist where they want to now help you, right? And then the 90 in the 90, 10, 25, 90, every 3 months, we recommend that you do one of 3 things. One is an event. Now, you might be going, you can't do events right now. I completely understand. But I've seen 3 events that have been pretty solid through this whole thing, and they were all done online. My most favorite one, and again, you've got to pay attention to the demographic that your market that makes up your database. But my most favorite one was hiring a magician and putting on a magic show for the kids. And I've seen a number of people across the country do this. It's been a hit every single time. There's always technical difficulties. There's always issues with it. And yet the kids absolutely love it. And the person who puts it on, my client or a MAPS coach, whoever I hear is putting it on, they all say the same thing. It was so great hearing those kids laugh through that Zoom call. It was so good. So the other events that I've seen really working well, online bingo. So you get everybody together and you can play bingo on Zoom, like a Friday night bingo, right? And have everybody bring their wine. Some people are doing poker. And they're having poker tournaments online. Now, I can't condone the gambling that may or may not go on, but that's another thing. I think that we've just got to be creative, but every 90 days, we want you to be doing an event. And right now, those events need to be moved online. And when you're doing those events, that's what gives you the ability to call people and let them know, hey, we're doing a reverse bold 100. Don't call it that. We're doing a giveaway and we're giving away a Peloton. Hey, we just featured this local business owner. Or hey, we're doing one of my other all-time favorite Zoom meetings or of online events was a client of mine out in California, Jason and Laura Burns, and they went and hired Anna and Elsa, actresses, and got Anna and Elsa to sing songs with the little kids. And it was a hit. I mean, every client of mine is an overachiever, so they always feel like, oh, well, we only had 700 people attend. I wish we would have gotten 800. They're never satisfied. So, if you ask them, it was a failure. I thought it was amazing. And so just think out of the box a little bit. But one thing that I've noticed as a coach over the years, and if you've ever seen me speak on a panel or a Zoom call, I always say this phrase: I do not believe people are call reluctant. I believe they are value deficient. I don't believe people are call reluctant. I believe they are value deficient. And see, here's what I love so much about the database. Write this down and remember it forever. The database gives you the opportunity to create your own community. See, there's a lot of communities out there that you can be a part of, but you didn't design them. You can literally design your own community through designing your database, right? So on the 90th day, there were a couple of other things that I want to mention to you. So one of them is teaching. And I know that a lot of you as agents, even if you are introverted, or maybe you're one of those people that just love standing in front of the room, a lot of you are great teachers. You're great educators. That's why people choose you when they want to buy or sell a home, right? So why nurses and teachers make such great realtors, because they're patient and they explain the process, right? And so one thing that I'm always encouraging people to think about is, or asking the question, what have you learned at Keller Williams that you could teach to the local business community? What have you learned at Keller Williams that you could teach to the local business community? So one of the things that I really love to, kind of encourage people to do or to consider is, if you're at Keller Williams, well, Training Magazine named us the #1 training company in the world so many times in a row that they just decided they were tired of handing us that medal and said, we're just going to retire your jersey and let somebody else do it. But a lot of us forget that we live in that ecosystem. And my question is how much of what you learn at Keller Williams is industry specific, meaning it's only good for real estate? And I always get a variation of the same answer. 85 to 90% of what we learn is business knowledge. So what if you were to take the idea of the 36 touch, and again, you can do this all through Zoom, and teach that to small business owners? How many of the people in your area even know something like that exists? A systematic communication plan. I mean, think about all the people that you are a client of yourself. How many of them are touching you 36 times a year? I don't know about you, but like none, right? So the bar is set pretty low here. So every 90 days, find something that you can teach to the people in your area. It doesn't have to be business related. Maybe you're passionate about financial peace and helping people get out of debt. Maybe you've really nailed real estate investing and you need to do an investor workshop. Maybe it's, KW Kids Care and teaching Quantum Leap. But find something you're passionate about and every 90 days, teach it. Start small. Start with 10 or 15 people. In fact, market it that way. I'm only allowing 15 people into this group, and then let it grow from there. And then the other thing that I encourage people to do every 90 days is to put together some form of a newsletter, something that you are proud of that features your community. And this goes out through snail mail. So yes, it's printed. Yes, it does need to be in color, and it needs to look really great. Whenever I get to this point, I always highlight one of my clients, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Her name is Mary Cheatham King, and she's out in North Carolina, Moorhead, North Carolina. And this is their, well, I had it. There it is. This is their newsletter. This goes out quarterly. It started as a newsletter. Now it is a magazine, is what we call it. And all of them follow a very similar structure. And I will happily supply the link to this for you all to check it out. And again, this didn't start this way. This is 3 or 4 years of us building on it, making every one of them better. But this is what they send out to their communities, highlighting their team, highlighting the communities, highlighting businesses. And this person has, I think the last time we checked, 16% market share in her market. So she absolutely crushes that. And so what I'm encouraging you to do is every 90 days, send something out through mail. And the idea is that people would be willing to pay at least $5 for it. It has to be good enough that somebody would be willing to pay $5 for it. And not that they ever would, but what are you putting together and sending out to your database that you're actually proud of? How much time are you spending engineering value to send out to your database every single month? You're not call reluctant, you're value deficient. And see, whenever I coach somebody, I was doing it this morning, and this was a new person because the rainmaker that I coach is out of town, and I was coaching her rainmaker. Coaching her ISA. She gifted her the call. I always start off with the same question. Write this down. Performance equals potential minus interference. Performance equals potential minus interference. So when we talk about performance, the performance that you have with your database right now, 0 to 10. 10 being you are absolutely killing it. You are crushing that database. You're getting a 10, 15% conversion rate. And 0 being you are terrible at it, just completely sucking at it. Aren't you glad you came to this really positive talk today? So where would you score yourself? Where's your performance as it relates to the database? Now, the most common answer I get, 6. And I think that's because most people are actually performing in an average way, and yet they don't want to admit it. So I get a 6. Okay, perfect. Let's just say your number's a 6. So what that means is that there's still room to grow to hit your potential, right? With the database. But here's the question I really want to know. What's the interference? What's preventing you from crushing it with your database? Why aren't you crushing it with your database? I want you to just take a second and write that down. If you wrote anything less than a 9 or a 10, what's preventing you from crushing it with your database? So I mentioned earlier, the last 10 or 15 minutes of this call, I'll be answering questions. I see those of you that are popping those into the chat box. Thank you for that. And I'll make sure that we answer those today. But my job as a coach is to constantly ask questions. And if we don't get to the root of what's keeping you from really engaging with your database at the highest level, then today is just going to be more and more information. See, whenever someone comes to me with a problem and I'm coaching them, I use a method called the 2 M's. And the 2 M's stand for mechanics and mindset. So when they come to me with a problem, my first internal question is this a mechanics problem or is this a mindset problem? See, mechanics is all about knowing what to do and how to do it. What to do and how to do it. Mindset is actually doing what you know. And you already know the answer. What do you think most people, if you're looking at what's preventing them from really crushing it with their database, is it mechanics? Is it that they don't know what to do? Or is it mindset? They're just not doing what they know. What is it for you? So when you write down that answer of, what's preventing me and my performance is a 6, is it a mindset issue or is it a mechanics issue? And here's the other thing I know as a coach is that most of the time when someone describes a problem to me, what they think is the problem, they're actually describing a symptom, not a cause. So they're saying, well, my database isn't big enough. That's why I'm not crushing it. Okay, perfect. That's a symptom. What's the cause of your database being so small? What's your goal for filling it up this year? How many people do you add every single week? What are the best ways for you to meet somebody and consistently add them in? How many people are slipping through the cracks that you're having conversations with, but never make it to your database? In fact, if you want to know how to build a massive database, I want to show you a model on this. And what it looks like is this. Now, you all have seen a variation of this, but over here, we have your market, right? And inside of that market, if you're an agent or a rainmaker, there's 4 different types of people. We have sellers, buyers, investors, and talent. See, with the people that I coach, most of them do not have a lead generation challenge. They have a talent challenge. They don't have enough good people. That's their real issue. Now, we have our market, and then we have our methods. Now, methods, think lead generation sources. So think of all the ways that you are going to go out and build relationships with people. Think of all the ways that you can find people who want and need your service and how you can meet those people and solve their problem. See, I think we should quit calling it lead generation and start calling it need generation. Because if I had $1 for every person that I had to talk to who said, well, this buyer, he doesn't want to buy this home and he doesn't want to use me as his realtor and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I start peeling the onion back and figuring out what's really happening. And 9 times out of 10, this buyer is somebody who's not even qualified, who can't buy a house, and you're trying to solve a condition, not an objection. You can't, if my goal was to create the best shampoo on earth and I set out to do it and I did it, and then I came to you and said, all right, my market is bald people. I'm going to go find all the bald people and sell shampoo to them. You look at me like you're crazy. That's not going to work. See, your methods need to match the market, meaning we need to find people who need your service. And so some people do this through open houses. Some people do it through door knocking. That's not a real popular one right now. Some people do it through internet. But what are the 5 methods you're going to use to meet and grow your database? The research on this is clear. With mega agents, 90% of their businesses will come from 5 or fewer sources. If you're drilling for water, it's more effective to drill 5 100-foot holes than 50 10-foot holes. So what we want you to do is identify what are the ways that you right now in the current environment that we have can connect and build relationships. Now, when you've selected the methods that you're going to use, maybe that's for sell by owners, you've got to have messages and offers that match those markets and match your methods. And one of the best ones that I've ever heard, I'll never forget when Jennie shared with me when, I asked her, why do buyers ultimately, why should they meet with you? Why do they give you your time? And Jennie said, well, we treat our buyers just like we do our listings. We actually market them. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so good. So if I'm a buyer and I come to the Wolek Group, you're going to market what it is that I'm looking for. Because here's the problem, and all you agents know this, because I hear this all the time about low inventory, low inventory, low inventory. Okay, perfect. The problem is that you're all shopping in the same store. And your buyers have just as much access to that store as you do. And when I know, Mr. Buyer, exactly what you're looking for down to the nail, well, then I can shop in all the stores. I can shop in the entire market. I can market you just like a listing and potentially find you an off-market home. See, that's a message. That's an offer. That's something that you can use to sound different. And see, one thing that I've done this year that's been really helpful for me and my clients is separating the difference between what are called value propositions and selling propositions. Value proposition answers the question, why should I hire you? You're sitting in front of me. You want to list my home. Why should I hire you over every other agent that's available to me? A selling proposition answers the question, why should I meet with you? Why should I give you my time to go over my real estate needs? That's a selling proposition. And do yours sound like, well, I really care about my clients and I've been in the industry for a really long time? If those are your answers to those questions, that's not going to work. Not in a highly competitive market like what we're in today. So we've got your methods, but remember, you've got to have the right messages. You've got to have the right offers. I call it the arsenal of offers. You've got to have at least 3 to 4 things that you can say to a buyer that sounds different, that would make them want to give you their time. Same thing with sellers. Now, our next job is to capture them. And we can do this through a variety of ways, whether it's through websites, landing pages, our app. Maybe it's through an open house app, a lead sheet, or an intake form, but we've got to capture them. And then we want to connect with them. Connecting is all about qualifying who they are, what they want, when they want it, why they want it, and how they want it. And from there, they've got to go into the database. And this is where so many of us screw this up. We have so many conversations that, man, we capture their information. We've got who they are. We know what they're looking for, when they're looking for, we know the answers to these questions, but it's sitting in some notebook on a Post-it underneath the console of your car. And so you lose them, you forget about them. See, I look at this like a highway system. And one of my favorite questions, and my clients absolutely hate it, is where's your highway system broken? Is it that you don't have methods that are getting us to capture? Is it that our messages are off? Most of the time, those aren't it. Most of the time, you guys are doing so much work, but you just won't take the necessary step to put people into your database. And then one of 2 things is going to happen. You close to an appointment, meaning they're ready to go right now, or you cultivate them, meaning you put them on an 8x8 or a 36 touch. 8x8s, I love 8x8s. You want to know the simplest 8x8 and the most cool thing ever? Create your 5 lists of 5. 5 lists of 5. So we used to do this all the time. I'll never forget, I have a client in San Antonio. What she did is she said, these are my 5 favorite beers in San Antonio. And it was her favorite day ever because she got to drive around. She wasn't driving, her boyfriend was driving her. But she got to drive around all day long, taking pictures of herself drinking the different beers at the different breweries. Then she had 5 favorite dessert day, her 5 favorite parks. And so all you do is find 5 different categories in your city, and then your 5 things. She was so happy going on dessert and beer tours. It was great. And those are 5 emails that go out. So when you're thinking about a 36 or an 8x8 that can literally work for anybody, whether they're a buyer, seller, investor, maybe they're not even looking to buy or sell right now. You create 5 lists of 5, those get into emails. Anybody you meet starts with the thank you card, that's touch 1. Then they get emails for 3 weeks, phone call. Now we're at 4 to 5, 3 more emails, then they go to the 36 touch. Simple, right? So that cultivate piece is a big one. Now, the other thing that I see as a big mistake is that if you were to interview agents, let's just say we get out of this pandemic and we're at mega camp or family reunion, and we were standing in the vendor hall and there are agents walking around all the time, and you go, hey, you, walk me through the tagging system in your database. How many people do you think are going to sit there, stop, look at you, and articulate this really clear, concise, organized tagging system? Jennie, you'll get Jennie, that's it, right? But most people, if you ask them what's the tagging system that you have in your database, they have no earthly idea. You'll get some groups, you'll get some tag names, but there's nothing organized about it. So let me show you one. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do it this way. This is what I think you need the minimum of if we're going to rock this database, okay? So the first thing is the source. And the source is, where did the relationship originate? Where did you meet this person? Friend, family member, open house, expired, FSBO. Remember all those methods we talked about? That's what we're talking about, source. Then we have groups. Now, this is where we can get a little out of control. And so what I encourage people to do in the beginning, if you're really truly going in to organize your database so you can communicate with it in a really clear, concise, systematic way, is to stick with 5 to 10 groups. So I gave you some examples here: a met, haven't met, SOI, past client. And then if you have a team, like a team member SOI, like Jennie has Brittany on her team. And when Brittany joins the team, her SOI is a group, right? Now, this next one is so critical. So I'm going to slow down and really walk you through this so that you get it. The pipeline report. The first thing is the definition of a lead. Now, when internet lead generation showed up on the scene in the early to mid 2000s, anybody that registered online was now called a lead instead of a registration. So the definition of a lead has really gotten skewed and changed over the years. In fact, if we went back to that same convention hall room and asked 10 agents in a row, what's the definition of a lead? What's the definition of a lead? You're going to hear 10 different definitions. So here's the definition that I would encourage you to adopt, okay? Again, all this is encouragement. The first one is that anybody that is truly a lead, you have asked them the 6 connecting questions from page 95 in Shift. Those are these questions right here: who they are, what they want, where they want it, when they want it, why they want it, how. Because that's qualification. It's figuring out what it is that they want and need, right? The second thing about a lead is that they're going to do something inside the next 6 months. I personally, if they're from 6 to 12 months, I call those people nurturers. That's the definition that I use. So a lead is within 6 months, nurture is 6 to 12. And the last part, this one's the easiest, it's implied that you have the permission to follow up with them. So you've got enough relationship equity that you're able to consistently follow up and talk to them about their real estate needs. So when we're looking at who goes into the pipeline and the tagging system that we need, the first thing that we're going to do is tag their intent. So are they a seller? Are they a buyer? Are they an investor? Or are they talent? right? So we got to tag their intent. The second thing is motivation. Now, this is the part that if you will do it the way that I'm asking you to do it, your listings, your buyers will explode if you're actually doing listing activity. When it comes to motivation, for some reason, this A, B, C, D thing showed up and it was like, what is a buyer A? Somebody who's going to do something in the next 0 to 30 days. A B is 31 to 60. C is 61 to 90. And so what happens is we create this very moving target around their motivation. The tagging system that I would encourage you to use when it comes to their motivation has 4 categories. This month, next month, 2 months, 3+ months. This month, next month, 2 months, 3+ months. So if you have a listing, for example, intent, seller, and what I love about this system is that it rolls all the time. So a seller this month is somebody who intends to sign the listing paperwork in July. Someone who intends to sign the listing paperwork or what we think will put their house on the market in August is a next month. If we think it's going to be in September, 2 months, and then from September to the end of the year, 3+ months. Same thing with buyers, except it's all about when they're going to sign the buyer agency agreement or the loyalty agreement with you. So what happens is we get all the people that are in your database that are currently leads tagged with the intent and motivation tags. And what I know is, let's just say Jennie needs to take 12 listings in the month of July. For an experienced agent like her, I know that she needs to take 12, multiply it times 1.5, which is 18. And that's how many sellers this month we're going to need for Jennie to hit her goal through the pipeline. The problem that so many of you have is that you're trying to be hunters. You're not being somebody who lives off of a farm. See, hunters are somebody who has to wake up in the morning, put paint on their face, grab their spear, run out the door, cold call, knock on doors, all this stuff to find a seller. So you have to identify them, you have to convert them, you have to get them signed all in the same month. It's too hard. You won't consistently do it. It's just like a hunter who has to go out on the prairie. I live in Kansas, so everything's prairie, and like stab a buffalo, drag that sucker home, butcher it, clean it, cook it. It's so much work versus somebody who has like a garden with some chickens and maybe a cow, right? So the pipeline is the real key to this. And here's the thing is that when I coach people and they say, well, how many contacts should I make? I don't know. I don't know how skilled you are. But see, here's the thing that we've lost on lead generation is people will say, I lead generated 10 hours last week. Awesome. How many leads did you generate? Because if we look at what the definition of a lead is, how many did you generate? Well, I don't know any. Then you didn't lead generate. You called people or whatever it was that you did, but you didn't generate any leads. You didn't lead generate. So I know I can be a little bit intense. This is why Jennie sometimes looks at me with that face. But here's the thing. If you're going to build a great database, a great business, you have to generate 1 solid lead a day. Generate 1 solid lead a day and get that sucker in the database, get the intent tagged, and then the motivation. See, if you're really going through those 6 connecting questions that we talked about earlier, if they go in the this month, next month, 2 months, or 3+ months tag. We want your pipeline all in one place. Command, actually, out of all the CRMs I've ever seen, has the best system for this in opportunities because you can go in and they have the different phases, cultivate, active, under contract, right? They have these different phases, but inside of each phase are stages. And we go in and just change the stages inside of cultivate, for example, to this month, next month, 2 months. And then what's cool is at the end of every month, we have to roll the pipeline, because everybody that was in this month either listed and went active, or they've got to be moved to a different month. Everybody that was next month now has to become a this month. So we're constantly working through that pipeline to make sure that nobody slips through the cracks. Most of you are doing enough work to hit your goals. It's lead waste because of these little bitty things you're not doing that is contributing to you not hitting your financial goal. It's not what you're doing, it's what you're not doing. And it's usually these little bitty things. Now, the last thing that we want to have as part of a tagging system is your relationship ranking. And that is A+, those are your champions, right? Those are the people that would get up in the middle of a restaurant, walk over if they heard somebody say, I'm selling my home, and say, you need to use the Wolek Group. Those are your champions, right? A's are your fans. Those are people that maybe they're past clients or just people that have left a review, someone that you can count on to give you referrals. B's, those are spectators. So those are people that we don't really know. They could go either way. C's are strangers. Those are people that we met at an open house a long time ago. We maybe have an information, like phone number, email, whatever, but we're not really clear on who they are. Those are strangers. And then lastly are don't engage. Those are the people we did a deal with, right? And they're just like crazy waiting for a place to happen. So we just stay away from those people. I don't know about you, but I have like 12 don't answers in my phone. Like I save them as don't answer. And so then when they call, I know like I'm pretty smart. Don't answer that, right? And that's what the relationship tag is around D's. Now, here's the thing. Last thing I'm going to say before we go on to questions. All of you have 3 comfort zones. If you're going to increase your performance and tap into more of your potential, you have to expand your comfort zone. Now, each of these circles represents a different comfort zone. The smallest one was your past comfort zone. This little guy right here. The second one is your present comfort zone. And then the largest one is your future comfort zone. Now, I believe growth is the intentional expansion of your comfort zone. And the way that I encourage people to think about this, like if I have an agent maybe that's done 50 or 60 deals consistently for 3 or 4 years, I'll ask the question, hey, was there ever a time in your career that just writing a contract for a buyer was out of your comfort zone? And they'll say, absolutely, I remember that. I had to call my broker or my team leader or whoever. See, that's that little X right here. See that little X right there? That's something that was outside of your past comfort zone, right? And so then I asked the question, if I asked you to write a contract for me and I was pre-approved and I knew the house, and would you be uncomfortable at all doing that? And they go, absolutely not. Like I could do that in my sleep. Right, because what happened is your comfort zone grew to the point that it was bigger than that challenge. So now you don't even think about it. It's just automatic. Now, how did you get yourself to do that? How did you get yourself comfortable with contracts? And the most common answer I get is I just did it over and over and over and over again. Repetition's the mother of all skill, right? So they did it over and over again, and their comfort zone grew to the point where now it's bigger than the challenge. And see, as it relates to your database and consistently communicating with it, consistently doing the little things that we talked about today, this challenge right here is just something that's outside of your current comfort zone. But if you'll just do it and do it not perfectly, but through progress, eventually your comfort zone will grow and you'll get so comfortable with building, communicating with your database, it will become one of your greatest joys. So I've been talking for 50 minutes. And the first thing that I want to do is just roll through here and see if there is any questions. Can we get a copy of the recording? Yes, I will get that for you. Spend time engineering value. Yep, absolutely. Mary Cheatham King, that's the person. If you haven't, you need to follow her team on Facebook. They do amazing things. I'm meeting with an interior designer stager, help her get her GPS in her business plan. I love that, Chris. That's awesome. Led a mastermind of 30 female entrepreneurs around the one thing back in April. It was a hit. I love that idea. Great job, Rebecca. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. I think we must have gotten it all. Nice. All right, so then let's share some ahas. Now, here's the thing. I'm super sensitive, so if you didn't get anything out of today, just make something up so you don't hurt my feelings. So just take yourself off mute or punch it into the chat box and I'll read it out loud. So what did you get out of our time here today?
I'll add to that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I am a 36 plus touch with client parties and events, and I have, freaked out in the beginning on, now what do I do? I can't do this. And so my big aha is that you just gave us a system to stay in front of everybody and see everybody without having, and my buyer specialists love open houses and door knocking. We can't do that. So everything got blown out of the water. So like you, Jenny, we've been scrambling going, okay, now what do I do? This is brilliant. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for sharing that.
Hey, Jordan, I really appreciate you giving your time and your wisdom today, and Jenny putting this together. I love that idea. The database gives you the opportunity to create your own community, and community is such it's a core value for me. So I love being able to view my database that way. So right on with that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and what's your name?
Christian.
Christian. One thing I would invite you to go check out, Christian, just Google 1,000 True Fans.
Okay.
1,000 True Fans. It's an article that was written by Kevin Kelly, who is a famous tech entrepreneur. Pretty sure he's a billionaire. And he talks about how any small business, all they really need to succeed at the highest level is 1,000 true fans. So go build your community of 1,000 true fans. Read that article, and I'll bet you'll get some good stuff from it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep, my pleasure. Josh Anderson said this was okay information, Jordan. Thanks for that, Josh. I appreciate your support, buddy. Megan said this was a great class. Love the idea of building your own community and focusing on a calendar plan. Donna said hunting versus living on a farm. Brilliant. Growth is the intentional expansion of your comfort zone and the 2 M's. Several tips, ideas for virtual client events, a doable 36 touch. 1 solid need. I love that, Karina. Need a day as opposed to 1 solid lead a day. That's great. And this was very helpful. Thanks for giving us a how too.
Jordan?
Yes.
I'll add a little follow-up of the business spotlight that I've done so many of these since we've been the past few months. And of course I needed a system around it because I saw my part of the team that as my lead generation and my cultivation of new people. So I just set up a Calendly that when people schedule time to meet with me virtually through Zoom, you're going to already have the Zoom link in there. I'm going to give them tips on how to best be on video because they don't always know like we do. And then I have it required that they must give me their name, their business name, their home address, their email address, and their phone number, because now I have all their contact info, and then that gets put into our database. So just everything you do is a system, and just making your life more efficient and effective rather than going back and forth with the business owner struggling to get something on the calendar.
Love that. Love that.
Name of, and I'll give Josh the shout out because he always needs attention. The idea of my public Facebook page is called Tulsa Looks Good on You, which he shared with me from a Nashville thing. So go steal your own city's name. I think, Rebecca, did you already do that?
Yeah,
Everybody
I should.
could pretty much put that on there. They could buy the domain.
Yeah.
We have it. We have a big mural on our building that says that.
And
So
then
I was
just,
shocked. Charlotte, I now have almost 200 people in this group after only 5 days. And there's so much engagement. We bought the domain. Do it. Thanks, everybody.
I love that. I love that. So good.
yeah.
So somebody just asked what the group name is again, Jenny. Tulsa looks good on you.
Well, mine's just a public page. Mine's a Facebook page. And so the point, I had started that over a year ago with just the intent of posting cool things about Tulsa, things going on around the community. And it just kind of got left and pushed off to the side because of all the other stuff. And then so once this all hit months ago, I got to reinvigorate it. And so, yeah, it's just so I made it generic enough that people, it's not real estate related. I don't put real estate stuff on there.
Mm.
What else? Any other ahas? I want to hear some more people. Sorry, we've got time left. We gotta, there you go. Hi, Jill.
Hi. I really liked methods need to match the market. So that was my one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Jill.
Jenny, it's Jack Smith from St. Petersburg. It's nice to see you here. Love the earrings, by the way. They look great.
Thanks. I put them
And
on.
Jordan- Oh, you did put them on for me. You're so kind. Jordan, this was a great class. And, you know, I had a bold coach a while back and I just didn't mesh, but I'm glad that I heard that we have really good people here. Again, it was probably me, not anybody else. I'm sure it was me. It was sort of a bad place in my life, but I got some really, really good things. I love the tag idea, defining the tag idea, because I've been talking about that and I didn't know how to do it. The 5 favorite things is a great idea. I started posting things about the town, I don't know, about a year ago. I haven't been consistent because I didn't itemize something like you said. Now, I can't imagine 5 beers, I'd be dead. But 5 parks, 5 desserts, 5 drinks, 5 pizzas, you know, it just exponentially can grow. So I think that'll really work. And I think the other thing you said was the arsenal of offers. That's a pretty powerful statement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going in on a listing appointment, you know, we have an arsenal of offers for you. You know, how do we address that? I mean, is that, I don't know, for buyers and sellers? Jenny, you got your finger up, so I know you got some.
Well, I learned these from my smart coach, so he can dive deeper on these. But that was exactly what we needed. Was, you know, having this unique value proposition. How are you different? What's one? And for us as a team, it's also just tools in my agent's tool belt so that they can pull this offer out when needed. So it depends on the client and the conversations. For example, you know, tiered service levels, where we may help or encourage them to do inspections in advance or appraisals in advance. And we have a whole one-sheeter that they can use that if that's needed for that client. Or Jordan and I, we built recently the flexible commission plan. So maybe you're talking with where commission is just a thing for certain people. Maybe it's a for sale by owner. How can you offer them still to be the one that wins and it's still a win for you as a business? What else?
You know, I want to say, you know, when you talk about that, Jenny, we have this little French bakery here in St. Petersburg, and whenever we do a listing appointment, we go out with a box of treats. Now, I learned this from another RE/MAX agent, and it throws them off guard because you're walking in the door with a present and they're not committed to working with you, right? But the other thing I've learned too is on our luxury listings, we show up at every listing with a bouquet of flowers for the listing agent, whether it's male or female. And if it's a guy, we just say, you know what? Take it home and tell your wife you just thought of something special and you had to bring it home. Why? I don't care what you do. But that has seemed to go over. Yesterday, we had an agent actually cry. She cried. I'm like, why are you crying? She said, nobody's brought me flowers just for showing a house. I don't know what this stuff, the universe brings it in. It's all about, you know, being in this James Shaw morning thing, James Shaw being the coach and, you know, but, you know, I have learned, my business has grown, almost tripled in 5 months. So I'm just so great that we have all these places we can go to and, you know, people to talk about real stuff. And this is a lot of information. I was scribbling as fast as I could. But thank you, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. Jenny, you're a doll. Thank you for arranging this. I'm thrilled.
Jordan, you have any final words?
I mean, it's just do it, you know?
Well,
So, everything that we shared here, one thing, Jenny, I just want to share is that as it relates to the database, one of the most common mistakes that I see is that we are operating off of a 1-year business plan. We're not operating off of a 3 to 5 year plan. And I think that one really useful exercise for all of you would be to look at where do you think you're going to end up this year, right? From a volume or unit perspective. And then take that number, maybe it's 100, and pick a percentage of year over year growth, 20%, 30%, 40%. I like 30%. And then just look at, with 30% growth for 5 years, where your business would be, right? And then here's the thing that I would encourage you to consider is, let's say that in 5 years, you go from 100 to 220 transactions. The question I'd ask you is, what would your database have to look like in order for you to do 50% of those deals, 220 deals, out of your database? And start building to that database. You know, like the Josh Andersons, the Jennies, the people that I coach, Tony Baroni, the people that I coach, like they are operating off of different plans than most individual agents. So get a vision for the next 3 to 5 years and start building to that instead of just trying to build a year over year database. Make sense?
yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Have an amazing weekend. And guess what? I'll see lots of you, or maybe hear lots of you on Monday morning at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time on our pivot call. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
See ya.